everybody, I'm Chef Julia Dunaway, and today I'm going to be making some homemade granola. And my granola is very popular. I've posted it on different social media sites and people are always asking me for the granola recipe and then they can't find it. So I thought for once and for all I would put my recipe on YouTube, and that way it would be a lot easier to find. So here I am today making this video, and I wanted to show you my granola, how I store it first. I have a half-gallon size jar here, and I make it and keep it in here in the pantry. And then also I've made another version of my granola recently, and I put it in these quart size mason jars, and they make really good gifts. So whatever you decide to do with it, I'm going to fill up another half-gallon mason jar. I have an empty one here, and these are the best size jars. They hold so much. It's been so handy. So why do I make granola? Well, granola is not something to eat on its own for me. You can't just eat, a bowl of granola for your cereal if you're trying to kind of manage your slim waistline, because granola has a lot of high calorie things in it. Like my granola is going to have all these nuts, different kinds of nuts, dried fruit. Dried fruit is kind of high in sugar. Rolled oats, which are really good, old-fashioned rolled oats. And some other ingredients such as maple syrup, peanut butter, and we'll get into that. So because of that, a small amount of granola is kind of calorie dense. So I don't really use a lot at any given time. I use it more as kind of a sprinkle on other foods. So for example, I'll have my regular bowl of oatmeal, rolled oats, like these, and then I'll top them with a couple of tablespoons, or no more than a fourth of a cup, not half a cup, a fourth of a cup of granola and a fourth of a cup of regular oatmeal. I'll mix those together, and then I'll add a bunch of fresh fruit and some almond milk, and it's the most delicious thing in the world. You don't have to cook it, nothing, just eat it like that and you'll love it. So that's how I use my granola. Also, if you like to eat yogurt, like plant-based yogurt, cashew yogurt, almond yogurt, whatever you like, you can mix granola into your yogurt. That always tastes good. Some people eat it for snacks, but like I said, a little goes a long way. So, unless you're a young child with a high metabolism, I don't recommend you eat bags of granola as a snack. Now, in an emergency, on a camping trip or something where you're going to be, expending lots of calories, maybe a bag of granola wouldn't be a bad thing, but I don't use it like that. I make it and eat it. It was kind of funny how I got interested in making granola, because I was watching a YouTube show and they were interviewing a couple who were in their 80s. And this couple said that they ate granola for breakfast every morning, and I think they just eat the whole bowl of granola. And they got the recipe from a recipe that was published in the 80s. And they said where it was, and so I looked it up, and initially I used that recipe as a guideline, but I made so many changes to it now, I think it's more like my recipe, because I had to modify it quite a bit to get it to fit our style of eating, which is no oil, more whole food, plant-based. And so I've kind of got it to where I like it, but that's what inspired me in the first place. I used to make granola back in the old days, before I was whole food, plant-based, no oil, which I've been since 2017. And I would make granola from a bed and breakfast cookbook that I had. But that granola had, I think it had like 3/4 of a cup of oil in it. And it had like a cup of honey. It was so full of oil and sugar, and it was really good at the time, I thought, but I don't eat that kind of stuff anymore. So here's my way of making my granola. So like I said, I use whole oats. So I have 6 cups in my giant bowl here, and I get my oats from either Homestead Grist Mill or places like that, mills where you can get things, or these are organic rolled oats from Central Market, which is a local kind of a gourmet grocery store. They sell them in the bulk section. Now, if you don't like plastic bags, you can bring your own cloth bag. Maybe now that COVID is easing up a little bit, before they wouldn't let you bring in any kind of container. Some people bring mason jars in their store and stock up on all their bulk items using their own mason jars. But for a while, there was kind of a rule that you couldn't bring that kind of stuff in a store. So I'm not sure what it is now, but you'll just have to check. So I turned my pan on because I'm going to heat some ingredients up. Because before we put all of our ingredients together, we're going to warm up our ingredients that go in the granola. So I'm going to get that started while I'm talking about the other things. We're going to use half a cup of creamy peanut butter. This peanut butter is Brad's Organic, and it's a brand that they sell in that gourmet supermarket, but they probably sell it in a regular grocery store too. I just got it at the Central Market because I shop there a lot. So I'm going to put half a cup in. I'm going to just put the cup down in my pan because it's not hot yet. And this, one thing I like about this peanut butter is it's kind of easy to get out of the jar. It's not like some that are dry. This one's kind of got a nice smooth moistness to it that works really well. So, but you can use any peanut butter. I would just say be sure that your peanut butter doesn't have anything in it but peanuts and maybe a tiny bit of salt, but this one doesn't have anything in it but peanuts. It has no salt, which it doesn't have any strong salty flavor, and I like that because I've had lots of peanut butter that had a little too much salt, and then it kind of interferes with what you're making. And we're going to put in a half a cup of maple syrup. So my little note on my maple syrup says refill with the jug in the garage refrigerator, because I have a big, like a bulk size jug of maple syrup that I can refill this with, because we go through maple syrup, not a lot, but we do go through it because of things like this mainly. And now that I've been making my granola, I've been making it for friends as kind of like a gift because people really like it. So it's kind of a nice gift. All right, and then I'm going to put in 1/4 of a cup of date syrup. I already got it measured out. My date syrup is Date Lady date syrup. I order it on Amazon. It's in my Amazon store. I'll put a link in the show notes. It's Date Lady comes in a great big huge container, which is one thing I like because I just used the last of my container. But you can get it in whatever, small containers, but I get the jumbo size one because I use enough of it that it's more economical that way. So date syrup is good. Date syrup has a lower glycemic index and it's not as sweet as maple syrup. Could I make this with just date syrup? Yes, I could. But I kind of like the flavor that maple syrup adds to it. It's going to be a sweetener no matter what you do, so I use one I really like. And I'm going to use 1/2 tablespoon of vanilla paste. Vanilla paste is very similar to vanilla extract, but it's more concentrated and it's thick. You can see it's kind of thick coming out of the bottle like that. And if you don't have vanilla paste and you just have plain vanilla extract, that's okay too. I have this vanilla paste because I had another recipe for some kind of gourmet plant-based frappuccino thing that I saw on Chef AJ and then I made, and it called for vanilla paste. So I bought this expensive bottle of vanilla paste. So I'm always trying to think of ways I can use it so it doesn't go to waste and it doesn't sit around. And I think that's it. I do have salt in my recipe, but I'm going to put the salt in with the granola. I'm going to try not to forget because that's an easy thing to forget. So what I'm doing with the peanut butter, the maple syrup, the date syrup, the vanilla, is I'm just warming it up a little bit so that it's smooth. It doesn't have to be bubbling hot or anything. The whole purpose of heating it up is to get it to mix together, because let's say that your peanut butter was kind of hard and dry and it wasn't as smooth as mine and it didn't mix up as well. Well, it might take you a couple of minutes of warming it up with the maple syrup to get it to a nice consistency that will mix well with the rest of your ingredients. So that's pretty much all it needed. It's all mixed together. It's all, nice and smooth and unified. I'm going to turn my burner off and talk about some of the other ingredients. So I already told you that I have my oats, the 6 cups of oats. And I'm going to go ahead and put my ½ teaspoon of salt in here now so I won't forget. Do you have to put salt in here? No. Does anything change if you don't put salt in? Not really, it's fine. We can put 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. Let me get my recipe out where I can see it. You could put 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. I'm going to put maple cinnamon blend, and I'm going to put a couple of teaspoons. I think I'm going to put 4 teaspoons of that because it's blended. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this company, Fresh Jax, makes these different seasoning blends. They're vegan, and they have a website, Fresh Jax. I'm not an affiliate with them, so I'm not advertising for them, but I like their stuff. It's organic, it's vegan. They have some really nice seasoning mixes, so I've been using, you know, their things quite frequently because I bought a bunch of them a while back, so now I have to use them up so they don't go bad. So I've got my salt and my maple cinnamon in here. You could put, like I said, 2 teaspoons of cinnamon if you don't want to use a maple cinnamon blend. And then we can add whatever else we want. I'm going to add a cup of coconut flakes, unsweetened coconut. These are the kind you get in the bulk section, the organic unsweetened coconut flakes. And the flakes are big. You can see they're big flakes. However, if you don't have coconut flakes, you can use shredded coconut. So sometimes I use this, and shredded coconut looks more like it's fine pieces of coconut. I'm not going to use it along with this other one, but I just wanted to show you. So I mix up the coconut. Then we're going to put in the 2 cups of different nuts and seeds. So what I did was I measured out 2 cups of different nuts and seeds that I have, because I make so many different kinds of granola and nut breads and pumpkin bread and hippie banana bread. I always have a ton of different nuts and seeds around. So I have, and I'll just, as I put them in, I'll tell you what they are. I have about 1/4 cup of pecans, just pecan halves. I have about 1/4 cup of whole raw almonds. Then I had just a few, maybe 1/4 cup of cashews, roasted cashews. And I also had a few roasted almonds, almond slivers, about 1/4 cup of pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, and then the rest are walnuts. So just some walnuts. So that was probably a little bit over 2 cups of different nuts and seeds. So that's why this is very kind of calorie dense, because look at all the nuts and seeds. But this makes a bajillion servings. I don't even know how many servings it makes, but you know, it depends on your serving size, but it makes a lot. So again, like I said, it will fill this entire jar, and you'll have more left over, and that lasts a long time. And also it lasts several weeks in the pantry. I think it would last 12 weeks in the pantry. So you don't have to freeze it, you don't have to keep it in the refrigerator. Trust me, I make it all the time. Okay, this is about 1.5 cups of dried fruit. I've got cranberries, about 1/4 cup, golden raisins, about 1/4 cup. I have dried cherries, about 1/4 cup, and the rest are just regular raisins, big ones and little ones. You could also use any dried fruit you like. You could use candied ginger. I'm trying to think of other dried fruit. Anything that, you know, dried blueberries, anything you like. I know some people want to use dried fruit that doesn't have added sugar, so you can find that in different places. That now there are dried fruit that don't have any kind of added sugar, so find that and use it. And then now I'm going to pour in my warm and nice, smooth flowing maple syrup peanut butter blend. Oh, and you could also use almond butter. So let's say that you didn't like peanut butter, that you like cashew butter, almond butter, hazelnut butter, whatever. I don't know what other butters there are, but really any kind of nut butter you like. Now the reason I use nut butter is because, remember, when I used to make granola, it called for oil. So when I started making this, I thought, okay, what's the substitute for oil that I can use in the granola? Do you have to have any kind of substance that's like a nut butter? When you really don't, you can just use syrup and no kind of butter at all if you wanted to. But I think using the nut butter adds a nice flavor and richness to it. I like it to be rich because I don't use much of it. And I use it sparingly, so it's okay. For those of you who are on a very healthy, super prevent and reverse heart disease kind of a program, you probably don't want to make this because it does have all that nut butter in it. It does have the maple syrup in it, so it does make it a little bit more caloric. But for somebody who is doing all right, eating a whole food plant-based diet, following the, what I follow is the daily dozen. I try to eat nothing but whole grains, fruits and vegetables and greens, berries, and lots of beans, lentils. And so I do eat really healthy food all the time. So a splurge for me is to put a couple of tablespoons of my homemade granola on top of my already healthy bowl of oatmeal with, you know, blueberries and raspberries, and eat that for breakfast. So I don't feel like that is a terrible, terrible indulgence given that I eat so healthy all the time. Imagine eating the standard American diet and all the different calories in a normal breakfast of bacon and eggs and toast with butter. So I think the little couple tablespoons of granola on top of a bowl of oatmeal and fruit is probably not going to end my life any sooner. So I have two big sheet trays, and I'll just fill one to show you, and then we'll do the other one. I'm going to put about half of my mixture. I mixed it together really well with my spatula. It wasn't difficult. And then I'm going to spread it out. And these sheet pans are really big. They're called half sheet pans. They're kind of the professional size ones. They're bigger than a typical home size chef sheet pan, which is usually like 11 by 14 or something. I don't know what size these are, but I think they're 12 by 18, but they're pretty big. So I've spread it in a single layer. Now I'm going to put them both in the oven at 350. So I've got my oven heated up to 350 degrees. Scrape it out of there and get all the good stuff out. So I've got my oven at 350, and 350 is not too high. A lot of granola recipes want you to use 300 or something and cook it longer. I found that 350 for about 20 to 25 minutes is perfect. And the date syrup makes it darker, okay? So don't be alarmed if your granola looks really dark, because the fact that it has date syrup in it makes it look really dark. So I'm going to put both of these in the oven. I just put one on the top rack and one on the middle rack. And then I'm going to set my timer for 20 minutes, and I'm going to check it at 20 minutes. And when it's done, we'll see it when it's done also, but just to show you, when I said it does get dark, it gets a nice kind of golden dark brown, which I think looks very appetizing. And I made this probably a month ago, and it's still crispy and crunchy and perfect, and it's really hard to resist temptation to just eat a handful of it for a snack. So that was it on the granola. I'm going to wait till it comes out of the oven, come back and show you the finished granola so you can see what it looks like after it's been cooked. See you in a few minutes. Okay, I'm back, and the granola is done, and it looks beautiful, but I kind of messed up. But even though I messed up, it's perfect, sort of, and I'll put the correct procedure in the recipe, so don't do what I did. For those of you who actually watched the video all the way to the end, I'm sure some of you caught it, but in my nervousness about doing videos, I mistakenly added the dried fruit before I put it in the oven. Not supposed to do that. You're supposed to add the dried fruit. Remember, I had all these golden raisins and cranberries and regular raisins and cherries and all that, and I added it before I cooked it. Well, I didn't think about it until I had it in the oven, and then I realized what I did. So I turned the oven temperature down to 300 immediately so it wouldn't cook so high, and then I stirred it after about 10 minutes and another 10 minutes. I kept it in about 25 minutes at 300 so that the fruit wouldn't burn, because that's the reason you put it in later. So did it burn? No, it didn't burn. And I've tasted a couple pieces of it. It tastes fine. It's a little chewy, and that's the issue with putting in the fruit before you bake it, is the fruit will get hard. So don't do what I did. Bake the granola, then add the fruit. So, and if you mess up like I did, I recovered. I turned the heat down lower and I cooked it and it turned out fine. There's nothing wrong with it. All the scare about the fruit will be destroyed, I think, is with traditional granola that uses oil. That something about the oil may get it a lot harder, I don't know, but it turned out okay. So I can't redo it because I would have to get all the same ingredients and make it again, and then what would I do with this? Because I sure don't want another batch this size. So I'm just going to use what I have and learn from it. But be sure and add your fruit after you bake it. And I'll put that in the instructions. So hopefully you won't do what I did. You'll have the recipe in front of you. Don't cook along with me and do what I did. But if you do, just remember, you can salvage your recipe, or you can eat the fruit and it might be a little crunchier or a little harder, chewier. But it's dried fruit, it's already kind of chewy. So make the granola, store it in something like a half-gallon mason jar or some airtight container. You can keep it in the pantry, that's how I store it. And also, excuse me, if you want to make variations of the granola, it really is very easy to make all kinds of different flavors. Like one of the flavors I would like to make soon is chocolate granola, which I'll add cocoa powder and maybe some cocoa nibs and make a chocolate version of the same kind of granola. So I might do that. You can do things like add different fruit, like you could add goji berries instead of cranberries, or freeze-dried fruit. You see a lot of freeze-dried fruit in the store. That would be a good thing to add. You could add hemp seeds and chia seeds and sesame seeds, all kinds of different seeds besides pumpkin seeds and sunflower seeds. So any kind of seed, flax seeds. You could add chopped up dates, and then also on spices, the sky is the limit. You could add cardamom, ginger, turmeric, nutmeg. You could even add matcha tea powder and make kind of a matcha tea black sesame seed granola. I've seen that. So whatever you do, make it your own. If you use the date syrup, it will come out in this nice dark color, but without oil, it still is crispy and delicious. And when you make it, be sure and stir it about halfway through cooking it. Reduce the heat if it looks like it's cooking too fast. And remember, add your fruit after you cook and cool the granola. Okay, let it cool for a few minutes and then add the dried fruit. But otherwise, just do it, everything else the same way, and I think you'll be rewarded with this wonderful batch of granola that you can use on all kinds of good things, yogurt, and even eat a bowl of it as a cereal if you want. Feed it to your kids, whatever you like, but I know you'll enjoy it if you make it, especially if you make it the right way. So I'll see what happens when I post this video. If I get some complaints about people messing up their granola because they added their fruit, I'll redo it. But I'm thinking that most people watch the beginning, they see the recipe, and then they say, oh, I can make that. I don't need to watch her all the way through the video. So I bet very few people really watch the video to the end. So if you watch it all the way to the end and see that I made the mistake, comment in the comments and let me know if you've ever done anything like this before, because I'm sure it's a common error. So thank you all for watching. If you watched it to the end, please make the granola, make it right so you don't mess it up like I did. I'm still going to use it. but I know how it's supposed to be. So thank you all. Hope you watch more of my videos, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you back here in the future. Bye-bye.